Hello, my name is Nicole, and thank you so much for taking this time out to listen. Today, I titled this message, Are You a Lifeline? Are you a lifeline? Some of you all don't realize that you have been put in positions to help someone who has some dark secrets. This came to me when I thought about some things that took place from the time I was a child all the way up until adulthood. I realized that there were victims around me, people who looked normal, appeared to act normal at times. Notice I said at times, not all the time. These individuals were people who overall had a faith. I don't know how strong you would say their faith was, but they did believe in the Lord. And some are still believing in the Lord. Now, the problem though is that when folks have secrets, you don't realize that you are a lifeline. If they are in some kind of trouble, you don't realize that they are bringing you into a situation in the hopes that they are protected, that if something should happen, you will be a witness, you will possibly fight for them, you will do anything that will help them through. So I ask some of you all, are you a lifeline? Has somebody brought you into a household? Have they connected with you through a friendship to help them through? Now, some folks are in domestic violent relationships, emotionally abusive relationships. But when you are on the outside looking in, it doesn't look that way. But it is for some. And I suggest that you do get familiar with the power and control wheel. Now, this particular wheel gets into the many different things that abusive individuals will use to control their victims. Now, if you're not in the know, or you suspect possibly that there's some things going on, but you're not taking it very seriously, then you don't realize what role you truly play in that person's life until, of course, something happens. So it's not just about protecting the folks that call on us, but it's also protecting yourself, because you could be walking into a trap and don't even realize it. You could be prematurely put in your grave and not realize it. And I will tell you that I have been in positions where I didn't know what had transpired or what was going on until God started showing me some signs and said, listen, this particular individual is using you because this person feels intimidated. This person feels uneasy with the individual that he or she is with. And a couple of folks that come to mind are in these situations and have been in them for many, many years. So let's go to that physical violence, sexual violence, power and control wheel. You can find it if you Google search domestic violence, power and control. You will see, also add wheel to it, you will see what I'm talking about. Now, going around the wheel very briefly, you will see there's using intimidation, using emotional abuse, using isolation, minimizing, denying, and blaming, using children, using male privilege, using economic abuse, and using coercion and threats. I will tell you is when you are the lifeline and you don't know that all of these things are going on, you are brought into a situation or situations where things are happening. And if you don't know how to deal with them, then you might find yourself either mimicking the abuser's behavior, co-signing on it, supporting it, or trying to run away from it. When we are being used, according to the will of the Lord, He's going to show us some signs, some visions, some wonders, a number of things to help us get out of the situation, because sometimes we're brought into situations and God had nothing to do with it. It was the victim. It was the folks around the victim that pushed us into situations that God said, listen, I don't want you in this. And as much as it hurts some of us that he doesn't want us to be that lifeline, it is what it is. And we're supposed to use the exit strategies to get up out of situations that people put us in, because sometimes misery simply loves company. Misery is not looking to get any help. That victim is not looking to leave her mate. So why is it that she's calling on lifelines? No, at times it's not so much she wants somebody to help. She just wants somebody to buffer a situation. She wants someone, or he wants someone, to be a distraction or to deflect from things, you see. So we get called in as believers into settings, and the devil is there and all his minions are going on, and we found ourselves, wearing the spiritual armor, trying to cut, the demonic. And meanwhile, God is saying, this isn't where I want you to be. Or we're there temporarily, but we're not there to hold the victim's hand all the way through the violent situations, the emotional abuse, and everything else. So when it comes to intimidation, these folks who are the abusers, they will intimidate. And then the victim will learn from the abuser how to intimidate us, being the lifelines. The victim will come up with all sorts of things to say and do to scare us so that we will either stay or we will go. Because once you've been used, now the victim has to figure out a way to get you out. Okay, everything is back to normal again. It's the honeymoon period. You can go. Okay, no, you can go. You can go right now. Okay, if you don't go, then I'm going to hurt you. I'm going to do this, that, and the other to you. You see, they don't want you sticking around, especially if they know that you got a fighter spirit about you. Okay, the soldier, you can move out. The troops, you don't need to stay. Okay, victims are so fickle, and that's why sometimes you don't want to get caught up in these situations. Allow law enforcement to take care of it. Allow social workers, allow something major to happen so that there's attention brought to the situation. Yes, does it hurt to know that there's something that's going to happen right around the corner that's going to just blow everything up? But at the same time, God is a God that wants peace. And if a victim's not willing to, have that peace, a victim's not willing to leave, he or she's making all sorts of, excuses for behavior, then this is what, is going to happen. Sooner or later, there's going to be shots fired, or somebody's going to get cut, or somebody's, going to, be caught on fire. I mean, these are things that has happened to victims, people who I have personally talked to, because, hey, they got to that place where they didn't want to leave, and their abuser made good on a promise. He said, I'm going to kill you. And they said, oh, he's just talking again, or she's just talking again. No, I'm going to hurt you this time. I'm going to hurt you badly. And so these things happen. And so the lifeline who comes into the picture, the opportunity was there, the exit strategy was there to get that person up out of the situation, but they chose not to. What, are we supposed to walk around in guilt? Are we supposed to feel bad about, some things that we may have said or done to stand up against the bully? No. God used this for a time. The person didn't want to get help, or the person wasn't completely, and here's another thing that bothers me, the person wasn't completely forthright with information from the start. Didn't tell us, okay, this is what's been going on. I'm feeling uncomfortable around this individual, so I just have you here for a few days or a few months or what have you to help me through. So, if you notice some odd things or what have you, I'm willing to get up out of this situation. No, some of these folks just want to keep secrets all the time. They want to lie. They want to connive. They want to project their drama onto you. They want to make you look like the bad guy. I'm coming in not knowing I'm being used as a lifeline. Then I realize I'm being used as a lifeline or a buffer or what have you. And now the victim wants to play this game of, oh, no, I didn't call you. I didn't really need your help. It is what it is. You can just go away. Okay, wait a minute. What do you want me to do? This is why some of these situations can become so troublesome. And this is why some of us end up turning our backs on some people too. Maybe prematurely, maybe according to the will of God, but we're not going to keep going through. Okay. That's why I told you in an audio I did not that long ago, stop helping crazy, because crazy has been brainwashed, manipulated, lied to, beaten, a number of other things. And so crazy doesn't want to get up out of his or her situation. Well, then they need to deal with it. We can pray, but as long as we're protected, because if anybody's going to go out, it's better that it's one person than a whole team of people going out. You see what I mean? And then through that person's death, it doesn't have to be in vain. We can, have a stronger relationship with Christ. Those that are unsaved will, start trusting in the Lord in some cases. They might even start going to church and do a number of other things as a result. You see, some people have to learn the hard way, unfortunately. They just are so stubborn, so difficult, so crazy in their own minds that they just have to learn some things the hard way. Something has to happen that's going to click that light bulb off in their mind for them to say, all these years I've been going through this mess. All these years I've been using different people, places, and things to help me through. And now there's no one. Oh my goodness. And this is where that isolation comes into play with these abusers. They're going to use isolation to keep folks out. They're going to say things and find faults and use all sorts of examples and so forth to say why you shouldn't be around that individual. Now, you who may be called as a lifeline to help someone, that abuser is going to put a whole bunch of mess in that person's head and talk about, you see, that's why I'm not helping her, or I'm not helping him. You see, that's why I don't want, her or him around. You see the mess that you started because you reached out and wanted all these people around, you see. And so they will use these various tactics. They will nitpick. They will create a smear campaign. They will damage people's reputations. They will do any number of things because they want to isolate their victims. You are not going to visit your mother. You're not going to visit your father. You are not going, to this event or that one without me. Okay? And so a person who's been trained for a number of years in this type of setting thinks it's normal, while everybody else is on the outside looking in saying, are you crazy? This man or this woman is controlling you. I mean, you're not even doing anything. You're not having sex with anybody outside your relationship. You're just having a good time with your family. And I mean, these crazy making abusers will start lying, accusing, eventually hurting their victims. For what? Because they went through some stuff growing up. Because they experienced some things. They saw some things. And so they think that in order for me to take control over my household, I've got to make sure that certain people, places, and things who might disrupt my control, might disrupt my atmosphere, stay away. Okay? Victims, I unfortunately, as I think about different folks, they don't see the light. They don't. Instead, some of them will run. You got those that will run to their, various substances, alcohol, cigarettes, drugs. You got other ones who will run to their jobs. They're just so overwhelmed with their jobs because they don't want to see the elephant in the room that they live with at home. So here you are, you're coming in there and you're seeing things and you're showing them, but they want to argue. They want to defend. They want to talk about you. Don't worry about me. What about your life? This type of thing. They get defensive. So sooner or later, what happens? God just removes you up out of people's lives because you don't want to see the abuse. You don't want to see the power. You don't want to see the control. Economic abuse is a big one for some of these abusers. And so you on the outside looking in, that lifeline, you're telling them save some money. Okay. You need to save some money because one day you're going to want to get up out of there. No, I'm okay. I'm good. She's taking her money and she's paying for all his little toys and little trinkets and everything else. He's telling her what she should do with his money, which is supposed to be their money. And she's making excuses as to why she can't help her, sons and daughters and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. She finds fault with each and every one of them. So it makes her feel better so that she doesn't have to spend his money. Okay. And once again, the victim doesn't see any of it. And so when we try to expose the foolishness, nope. Once again, they're going to, turn the situation around. They're going to say, oh no, God's not with you. And remember when you said this, and remember when you did that, bringing up situations that have nothing to do with the fact that they are being controlled. Lord Jesus. And so then we have some other things that take place with these abusers. I'm king of my castle, using his male privilege. I'm stronger than you. I'm better than you. A woman needs to stay in line. A man needs to, be in his place, because you got women who act like men. Okay. And some men who have been abused by women will tell you that, because they learned some things from their father. They thought they could be closer to their father if they acted like him. Okay. So you've got this, I'm entitled. You need to do this for me. Bring my food up to me. Bring my drink to me. Pick out my shirt for me. Wash my underwears, this type of thing. And these women will do it. Some of them will do it. They will do it not just for months, but for years. And that man is telling his friends, oh, I got her controlled. Or he's telling his brothers or sisters, okay, oh, you don't have to worry about her. I'll have a talk with her. I'll deal with her. She knows how I am. She knows how I think. And so you don't have anything to worry about. The mother complains, or mother-in-law complains about, the in-law, the daughter-in-law, or what have you. Oh, don't you worry about it, Mom. I got this. You see. And so then here we are on the outside looking in, and we're saying, okay, now do you see what he's doing? He runs his mouth. He goes and he talks to his brothers, his sisters, and everybody else about you, and how he has you put in check, and how you do for him and all this other stuff. But he's not explaining it or in a way where it's all loving and kind and sweet. He's letting them know that if there's ever any issue with you, he's going to deal with it. And so, what do victims do? They make excuses. Oh, I just love him and I care for him, and don't you worry about that. I've been doing this for years, blah, 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 blah. And we know better. Okay, so then what do? These abusers, they're going to use children. And I don't understand why some victims don't see through this one. I mean, if you can't see through anything else, see how he's using the children to get into your head. So we, being the life, the life support, the lifelines, or what have you, we're trying to tell them, listen, he's using the children to get next to you. He's using the grandchildren to get next to you. Okay. He's coming up with all sorts of ways to get you to dance by the beat of his drum, by pointing out everything that he doesn't like about the children. So what do some of these victims do? Well, they are going to be distant from the children and the grandchildren, because he said. And then they're going to try to associate certain things that may have happened. Okay, could be some negative situations that took place. So he's going to bring up those negative situations and connect them with the children. And she's going to say, yeah, that's right. Yep, I shouldn't do this, and I shouldn't help them out. Yes. Or he's going to use children and say, if you don't do what I tell you to do, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to beat this one for the things that you didn't get on him about. And then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to hurt our daughter because, see, I told you that you should have done A, B, and C. And so she's walking around all, oh, I don't want my kids to be hurt behind his crazy behind. So I guess I'll just go ahead on and do what I need to do. Okay. And then we on the outside looking in, we're saying, listen, he's just using your children. No, he's just a good parent. He's strict, but it's okay. No, it's not okay, because that's just not normal. And one day those kids might go to the school and say something. Oh, no, they won't, because if they do, I will hurt them. Okay, now she's taking on the attitude of the abuser. Okay. Then we've got the minimizing, denying, and blaming. Lord Jesus. And this is another one. Here we are. We're sitting back. We're seeing the stories unfold. We're seeing the writing on the wall. The abuser has showed his whole card with us. And we're saying he's minimizing the situation, and you're minimizing it. And you got two black eyes, or he cussed you up and down and sideways, or jumped up in your face, or did any number of things. But you're going to say, well, it was because I did this or because I did that. And well, if I hadn't done it. Or The victim is going to say, oh, no, that didn't happen. Wait a minute. You called me up and you told me, here we are on the outside looking in. You told me that this happened. You said that he was behaving this way. Or we bring up things that the abuser did. And, oh, no, that's not the way it happened. No. See, you just had problems with him. See, you never really liked him anyway. So you're just going to take things and twist them around. No, do I have to play a recording of you talking about him? Because for some of us, that's what it's going to boil down to. Because people lie too much. People exaggerate too much. And sometimes they need to hear what they're saying. For some folks, it's going to just drive them right back into their situation, depending on, the type of person they are. If they're not ready to leave, then they're probably going to be distant from you when you start exposing things for what they really are. Oh, I don't like her. She speaks too much truth. She sees through the story. Okay. And then the blame game. Oh, he's got to blame everyone, including her, about everything that happens. He hurt his foot on something. She should have moved such and such out the way. He couldn't find something. Well, she was around that area, so she must have put it up somewhere. He had some problems, keeping up with things or what have you. So he's got to blame everybody in the household, so this sort of thing happens. Stories, family issues, she's to blame. You shouldn't have brought this person into this atmosphere. I told you that it was going to end up being nothing more than a problem. The abusive women, they will do the same. Lots of talking, lots of yelling, lots of cursing, lots of blaming. And sometimes the women who are abusive, they will draw out the violent man. Okay. He may not have been violent, but now he is going to start becoming violent because she drew it out. She smacked him one day. She pushed him one day. She threw something at him one day. Now he wasn't going to hurt her. He wasn't going to come over there and beat her. But now that she did what she did, okay, now not only is he going to get her for old, but he's going to get her for new too. Okay. And then there's the, using the coercion and the threats and all of this other stuff, trying to get the woman or the man, the victim, to do what I say when I say it, how I want it. And if you don't, then it's going to be some problems. And he's going to get her for any number of things, or she's going to get him for any number of things. Go over there again and talk to her and see what happens. Go over there and say something to him. And I will do this, that, and the other. You thought it was bad last time. Wait until you do it this time, you see. And they'll put a smile on their face the whole time. Because, see, sometimes the abuser is not looking all evil and scary and stuff like some of these videos show. Sometimes the abuser is beautiful looking, handsome, okay, smiles nicely, okay, is in the church, is a pillar of the community. But I thought abusers looked bad. I thought they were poor, broke, busted, and disgusted. I thought they had nasty houses. Erase all that, because the folks that I see in my mind are not even close to that. But they're in these relationships and they've been in them for a long time, because some people think, well, that was just a few months or a few weeks for this individual. No, some of these things last for a long time. He may not have beat her in about 10 years, but he's beaten her mentally. She may not have smacked him in, over 20 some years, but he didn't forget, and he's hurting her for good, bad, and otherwise as a result. Or she's continuing to use all sorts of tactics to hurt her partner. Okay. So we are on the outside looking in, and we're saying, look, he's threatening you. He's coming up with ways to get you to do what he wants, or, she is. And so they don't want to hear it. And you're going to the Lord and you're praying and you're saying, Lord Jesus, would they just open up their eyes and see things for what they are? Bringing other people into their mess. And we don't know what's going on because they're not telling us everything. Then some of us end up in trouble as a result of the foolishness, because somebody didn't give us the blueprint as to why this one and that one is involved as well. You see, so we find ourselves in positions that either the enemy drew us into, or God did temporarily, but then got us out. Because one thing about it, God is not going to keep us anywhere in any situation with anyone for a long period of time, especially when he knows what that victim's heart is, or what that abuser is thinking in his mind. So he gets us up out of situations before, things happen. Now, if we choose to stay in that mess and we get caught up in the foolishness when the man is shooting a gun or the woman is screaming and she's wielding a knife, and we choose to stay in that, then yeah, we're going to get cut in the process too. We're going to, get shot in the process too. Because one thing I'm learning about, at least the God I serve, is that he will tell us what's ahead. He'll say, okay, you're going into a situation of trial. You're going to be used in a way that's not going to be what others would consider normal. I told you guys in the past, some of you all who have followed me for a long time, I have an old video that talks about how God will even put lion spirits in, the picture. He will allow certain things to take place that don't look very righteous, but it's for the greater good. So when things come to light, when people, places, and things are exposed, it makes us feel better about leaving a situation. Oh, well, thank you, Lord, for giving me the heads up. Thank you for showing me what's really going on here. Because sometimes silly little petty little dramas and arguments will open up a can of worms for us to look at the big picture and see where God is in it and where God isn't. And so I thank the Lord for what he's doing in these people's lives. And I'm glad that my, service over the years has been temporary. And I'm grateful that I did not get caught up in some craziness trying to help somebody, not realizing that they don't really want the help. All they want to do is use and then kind of put you out there like a shield to take some of the abuse. Because one thing about victims is they learn a lot from their abusers, and they know how to abuse other people. They know how to use intimidation. They, intimidating stares, jumping up in your face, making accusations, being deceitful, setting up scenarios so that a whole bunch of stuff jumps off, lying, covering up. They do a lot of this stuff that their abusers do. And then we end up getting caught up in the foolishness because maybe we didn't pray, or because we didn't ask the Lord, okay, what all are we supposed to do? So when you are in situations where you feel like you're going to be that lifeline, or you feel like, you're supposed to be supportive or helpful or what have you, just make sure that God is in it. Make sure that you are protected. Your family is protected, and don't tarry. Don't stick around. Once you see the writing on the wall, once God exposes some things, say your farewells and keep it moving. What is in darkness will come out into the light. Thank you so much for taking this time out to listen.